The reason I'm here, I think I can be a motivation to some of the fellow investors because I have no background, I have no family or friends in this field before I started, and I have no money. I had no time because I have a full-time job and I have a family with 2 kids and I have a lot of activities. I'm a fairly avid poker player and I do rock climbing and I do running a lot. And I don't have much skill. I'm lazy and I'm not handy. I think the most thing I can do is to change a light bulb. That's about it. And the last one is I'm socially awkward. I'm very awkward in networking and I feel nervous in lot of chances that I had to talk. But even me can have some moderate success and I'm willing to share this limited experience to you guys.
From the middle of America, welcome to the Oklahoma City Real Estate Show, covering local market data, news, and reports to arm you with information you need to empower your investing and strengthen your American rights. Top realtor, investor, husband, father, and veteran. Here is your host, Landon Whitt. For more information and to listen or watch online, visit okcrealestateshow.com.
All right. Okay, Howard, it's been an honor to have you come in to the show today and talk a little bit about your experience in Oklahoma City. I think what's most important today is really getting your honest view of Oklahoma City. You've spent a lot of time working, looking at numbers, getting reports back from your property managers. You've had an experience that I think is extremely valuable for someone who maybe is looking into Oklahoma City for the first time, and even those that have been here for a long time already, to learn maybe from your mistakes and also your successes. So welcome to the show. Please start and tell us a little bit about your story, about how you got into real estate, and then where you are now.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm a big fan of you. As I have told you, I have listened to every episode of you on podcast. And I was born and raised in China. I came to Houston for my master's degree in 2004. And in 2006, I got a job here. So that's why I end up here. I have a engineering job. It's a traffic. It's a branch of civil engineering. So that's how I started my life here in OKC. And I spent first my few working years not knowing real estate at all. So I think up until 2010, 2011, I don't have any rentals. I don't know how to buy. I don't know nothing in real estate. And I figured out I have to do something with my money. I didn't have much at that time, but I read the book. You probably know that book. And
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
There you go. Yeah, that's the book. The book actually didn't tell anything about how you do things, but it will change your mindset to owning more assets than liability, to have passive cash flow. And that's I after reading the book, I was like, damn, that's the way I need to go. So 2011 is the lowest year in real estate. So I was fortunate to bought a real small single family home and real cheap. I think it's costing me only $50,000. And I don't know nothing. I hire somebody to manage, to repair, to rent. And at first I was very nervous because it went 4 months without anybody rent. Yeah, I was nervous. I was like, they are cheating, and this thing won't work. It's a hoax. But finally, I found somebody to move in, and from then on, it all started. Yeah.
2011.
2011.
First property.
That's the first one.
Did you pay cash?
No, I applied for loan. Even the house was pretty cheap, but I couldn't afford it. So, yeah.
So 2011, you got your first property.
Yeah.
It didn't rent for 4 months.
For 4 months, I panicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've made a terrible decision is probably what you were thinking at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I really think this thing would not work, at least not for me. But after those 4 months, I found a good tenant in, and the family lived there for 6 years. So it was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So 4 months to get them.
Yeah.
Then they ended up staying for 5 years.
For 5 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And you self-managed at that point. You were the one that was showing the property, and you were the one, or you hired a property management company to.
Actually, no. I have my day job all the time till now, and I don't have time to show. I don't have time to repair. So I found the property manager from day one.
Excellent. Excellent.
So, yeah.
So you've got the first property.
Yeah.
Took you 4 months to get it rented. You got it rented.
Yeah.
Did you immediately then look for your second property?
Yeah, I was always looking, but good deals don't come every day. So it took me a pretty long time, like half a year or so, to find another one. And so I bought, I think I bought 5 till the year 2013. And I took a long time off. I stopped buying from 2013 all the way to last year. I didn't buy anything in those 5 years. The thing is, I figured for one, it's so hard to make a good wealth in buying real estate, because the properties are good, the tenants are good, but I can only generate probably $100 to $200 a month per property. So the total cash I can get in a year with 5 properties is like probably $8,000, $9,000 a year. It's a real slow. Yeah.
So at that point, you were reassessing your strategy, right?
Yes.
Thinking,
yes,
if I'm going to do this, it's going to take me till I'm 80 years old to actually make a living.
exactly.
I might as well retire.
I already know making money in real estate is slow, but I didn't expect it that slow. That's why I took a long break off.
So you've got 6 properties at that point, correct? You'd had 6 properties at
yes.
the time where you felt,
yes.
Okay, that's pretty typical, is those first 10 are extremely difficult with the strategy that you're talking about, which you are buying pretty much turnkey properties. Is that right?
I would say it's 100% turnkey, but pretty much, yes. Yeah.
So you've gotten to 6. You decided to take a break. How long was that break again?
The break was 5 years. It's not only I found this thing is so slow, and another thing is I play a lot of poker at that time, and I found it's a better way for me to use my capital in poker. I'm a pretty good poker player, so I made decent money in poker, and until 2018, which is last year, not too long ago, I found, man, there's another good way that I can find value add properties, and I can jump back in again, which is that way is for sheriff sale auctions.
What year was that in?
2018, last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sheriff sales were busy then. How many people you think were in the room?
Well, I usually go to I usually go to sheriff sale in 2 counties, Oklahoma County and Cleveland. Cleveland County was smaller. They have every sheriff sale, they have about 30 to 50 people. Oklahoma County's sheriff sale was big. Every time they have more than 1,000 people in there, and they bid crazy. But in 2018, things were not heat up as today yet. So my first sheriff sale in Oklahoma County, I bought a property sight unseen, and so I shift my interest to sheriff sale like 100%. I studied the numbers online. I drove around on weekends to see the properties, and of course you can't get in, but you can see the outside. If you're sure it's empty, you can take a good peek, and you have to study the legal documents and make sure it's first lien, first mortgage.
Exactly.
Foreclosure. If it's the second one, the first will not get wiped. You would end up to pay that. You don't want that. And so in a real short time, I bought around 20 for sheriff sales. The thing for sheriff sale is you don't need a lot of money to keep this thing rolling, and of course you need money to get started, because you will have to pay cash in sheriff sales. The thing is, if you win a bid, you will need to pay 10% within 24 hours. And then you pay the rest 90% is usually within a month or 6 weeks. So you will need to have cash. They don't care if your cash is the cash is yourself or from a friend, private loan, hard money loan, or from a line of credit, but you need to have that cash by that time. So it's a little hard to get started because you need to have the cash. But the thing is, the all-in price you pay for the sheriff sale is like around 60 to 70% of the market value. So there's some instant equity there, and you buy it, you spend maybe 5K, maybe 10K, maybe 15K in very bad case to rehab. And after it's all said and done, your all-in cost is around 70 to 70% of the ARV after repair value. And then you can bring that property to a lender, get either a line of credit or a term loan, so you can get almost all of your money back. This is the way you can grow your thing without a lot of cash. Yeah, quickly there.
But you need the original cash to start the process, and not only just to start the process, but you probably had enough cash, I'm assuming, from gambling.
Yeah. Well, you can call it gambling.
Disclaimer: we don't condone gambling on the show.
No.
Because it can be addictive, right?
Yes.
Right? Do you feel like you're addicted to gambling?
I wouldn't say I'm addictive. I only gamble when I have an edge. And when I feel the edge is gone, I can just stop.
You have control.
I have the control.
So you've managed your ego.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people, they are controlled by the ego. They will be like, I have to win today. If they don't win, they feel so bad of themselves. Not me. So I'm pretty lucky on that side.
Hey, and we talked before the show, you may be starting a podcast soon about your gambling.
Well, starting a poker show. Yeah, I thought about that. And that's why I'm so excited to see behind the scenes stuff, how you run the show. And man, it needs a lot of stuff. So
hey, but you've got the demand for it. So if you were listening and some of our listeners may be interested in what you're doing, hey, start an email chain. We'll put your contact information, if you want, at the bottom of this video and at the bottom of the podcast. Sure. That way they can reach out and talk to you and ask you. I mean, some of the most valuable things we learn in this community is when we're able to just openly discuss with each other. I think with investment real estate, there's so much about it that's just hard work. It's just diligence. It's not like some secret that you learn and you go out and do this secret and all of a sudden you make millions of dollars. It's knowing data is important, but it's also hard work. It's diligence. It's showing up. Those 20 times, let's say you bought 20 properties in 2018, which is crazy. I mean, that is a lot of properties for 1 year.
That is.
To not buy it as part of one portfolio package or something.
Right.
But you probably didn't buy properties a lot of times you went as well. Is that true?
That's exactly true. I drive through most of the properties on the list. Each sheriff sale, they have a list. And I drive through most of the properties I can see. Other than the real bad area, real far ones. If it's close enough and if it's halfway decent, I'll drive by it, I will evaluate, and I will put a bid on that. and I put max bids on, I would say about 60 to 70% on all of the properties from the list, and I probably only get one for every 40 to 50 bids. So sometimes my bid is even lower than the starting bid. So I didn't even get the chance to
bid.
To bid. Yeah.
Sure.
But
And that's the bank driving that.
yes.
So for those that haven't been to the sheriff's sale yet, and I recommended on Bigger Pockets yesterday to a gentleman that said, what do I do? How do I get started? I don't have any money yet, but in a couple of months, I may have enough to be able to start. And what do you recommend that I do? And I told him, I said, go to the sheriff's sale, because you can watch these other people. You can get to meet other people too, and just see what they're doing. And a lot of them will even talk to you. You can say,
exactly.
hey, are you new to, you bidded on a lot of properties today. How many properties do you have? And a lot of the people I've noticed that are there are flipping the property.
Right.
If you're flipping the property, you need a different margin than if you're buying and holding like what you're doing.
That's exactly right.
So a lot of the people that you're competing against, if they're competing to flip the home, you guys will be in two different bids in two different situations.
Yes.
And they're not going to often compete with you just because the margin for you, what you need is much smaller than what they need. They need a very large margin to flip. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's exactly true on that. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to talk about there are three type of bidders in the on the scene. There are flippers, there are buy and hold guys like me, and there are first time homeowners. You would probably be surprised that there are first time homeowners, they want to buy for their own home. And for those people, they probably know it's their neighbor's house that's going on the sale, and that they want to own that home because they already know the home. So for those people, they can bid the highest, because the investors, there are no way for investors to compete with them, because they buy because they love it, they love the location, they love the home, they have emotions on the home. Not us. We go by the numbers. And then the flippers, they need a wider margin, because when they rehab the home, they need to rehab it to a higher standard than us, the buy and hold rental guys. And for us, our margin can be smaller than the flippers. And there's also another thing is our focus are different. We focus on a sweet zone from the value of, I would say, probably $60,000 to $120, maybe $130, $140, but you can't go higher than that. If you go higher than that, the rent to value ratio is not going to be good. But for the flippers, they don't care. They actually prefer the higher dollar homes, because for let's say, if a real cheap home, if a $90,000 home, the flippers can buy it for $50,000, right? There's only 40,000 room for them to play, and they have to pay the rehab, the holding costs, and at the end of the day, their margin is not that much. Even though the 50,000 purchasing price is only 61% of the price, but it's not only the percent, it's the actual dollar amount that matters. So they can buy a $250,000 home with $160,000. The percent is higher, but the dollar amount is bigger. So they have because some of the costs, it doesn't matter if it's a big home or a small home, it's going to be pretty much the same.
You have to mobilize. You have to get a dumpster there.
Right. Yeah. The dumpster, the holding cost, the interest and tax.
Electric bill. Yeah, exactly.
Electric bill. Yeah.
All the same.
Yeah.
I did notice that. There are some individuals that are bidding, and you see that, especially at the sheriff's sale. And I'm glad we're talking about the sheriff's sale, because we haven't really talked about it on the show. I've talked about it off the show quite a bit. I personally failed miserably at the sheriff's sale, just because I was looking for a different margin, and I felt like the banks oftentimes, like, you would be bidding against somebody, right? And
Yes.
then the bank would say, 61,000, 61,300,
Yeah.
61,400.
Yeah.
And then the bank would finally say $66,435. And
Yeah.
then you'd know that's the payoff.
That's their final price.
right.
Yeah, they will stop there. Exactly. Yeah.
But then 10 other guys would jump on and start bidding,
Oh.
because you'd finally...
Those guys
Yeah.
wait till
Yeah.
the bank say their final numbers. So
Exactly.
and then they
Yeah.
jump in. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
It
So
happens.
you end up spending so much time and energy, and then getting to a point where you go, gosh, is it worth it? And I think we got burned in a couple cases where the property had foundation issues and stuff that you couldn't see from the outside.
Right.
Most of our family's portfolio, we have 90 properties that are all paid off. Most of that was acquired during the HUD Home Store when
HUD
they
Home
really
Stores.
started in the early 2000s. Okay,
Gotcha.
there was some laws at that time period where a bank could only hold a property for a year, and then they had to do something with it.
Okay.
Now, for some reason, they can hold it for forever. So when you see these vacant, boarded up homes, those can actually be purchased by investors in China or investors in somewhere in Europe, and they literally hold those properties for 20 and 30 years, some of them. And then they just sell it off without doing anything to it other than paying the holding costs, just because they've looked at the tax rate versus the appreciation rate. They do the math; it makes sense, and they just pay the tax. That's it. Because you can only appreciate a property. I think it's 2.5 or 2% annually is the max the county can appreciate a property that hasn't been sold. I'll have to get that number, but it's something like 2% in Oklahoma County.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you don't ever refinance or you don't ever do a transaction on your home, the county then reappraises it only when they do their annual reappraisal. But there's a law to prevent them from raising it too much.
Too much. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So that's important when you buy a property for $15,000 that's crappy, right?
Yeah.
You just pay the taxes on it, which is only a couple $100s a year.
Yeah.
You hold that property for 6 or 7 years. You let the appreciation go up, and then you sell the same property without doing anything to it.
Yeah.
This is a corporate investor mentality. Let's talk. So you've now got 26 properties we've talked about up till now. Then you started getting involved with some friends and you grew your portfolio even faster. And now you're at 50 homes that you're involved in. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
50 something is what
50 something.
the conversation
Yeah. I lost count from 30, I think. Yeah. I have very few good friends, and I partner up with them, and we bought a small, I wouldn't call it apartment, but it's 4 plexes, 5 buildings of 4 plexes. It's actually real close to the Plaza District on 17th Street. And that's my first try with a partnership. I partnership with friends, and we pull money together. And of course, they are not local. They are in China or in Hong Kong, and so I put the work in, and we put equal amount of money in, and I own a little more share. So that's how it works. And of course, because they are not local, they don't know the market well. So I do all the work, and they don't stick in and say, hey, you should do this, you should do that. So basically, I run the show. So
good.
Yeah,
Well, you've got experience
out.
now at this point.
Yeah.
2018 was an incredible year for you. I mean, in terms of real estate numbers.
Definitely is. Yeah.
But that wasn't, I mean, we were working that. I mean, 2018, yes, we did a lot of sales that year, but it wasn't anything spectacular. Like, it wasn't a recession. There wasn't. So it seems to be that you knew your numbers, right? You had learned a method, and you were looking for that specific margin. And when it came along, you pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, your deals can't have been like crazy great, right?
Right.
Okay. So walk me through kind of quickly, what did you look for? What was your recipe to buy 20 homes in 1 year?
Okay. When I compare deals, I really because I listen to your show a lot, and I know you talk about a lot on cash flow, and that's very, very, very important. And you have to have positive cash flow. But when you compare deals, when you compare deal A from deal B from deal C, which one is the best? The thing is, you don't directly look to cash flow, not yet. You look at the cap rate. Because cap rate is all about the property itself. It's not about the loan. Because when you talk about cash flow, you need to know how much monthly payment you need to pay on the property, and you take that as a expense. But when you look at cap rate, you only look at the net operating income. That's the income. That's the what's that divider? The one the number above the line. No, that's the
median.
That's the denominator, right?
Oh yeah.
That's
the denominator.
Denominator, and the divider, the number below the line is your all-in purchase cost. That cost will include the purchase price plus the money you put in for rehab. So it's a net operating income on top and your all-in cost on the bottom. For the net operating income, you take your gross rent minus all of your expense, minus all of the tax, property tax, minus the insurance, and minus any vacancy type of cost, and that would be it. You don't subtract any mortgage payment, any mortgage interest. Not that. Only the net operating income. So you calculate the cap rate
over the purchase price, acquisition price.
Over the acquisition price, yeah, plus your rehab cost.
Oh, plus yeah. So
yeah,
you're
plus rehab. So you wrap up the.
So you're just saying $10,000 to $15,000 is what you were doing on your metric, right? I mean,
right,
you were running, which is pretty conservative.
Yeah, I don't do crazy rehab for the homes because it's a rental home, and you don't want a fancy carpet, fancy wood floor in there. I basically do vinyl plank for all of the properties.
About $3,000.
Yeah, exactly. And the price is up a little bit, but that's another issue. So you calculate all that number, and it will give you a percent is usually from anywhere from 5 to 8%. For most of the single family, is 5 to 8%.
5 to 8% of the cost, total purchase price of the home is the renovation amount that you spend.
No, the cap rate.
Oh, the cap rate.
Yeah, the cap
gotcha.
rate. Yeah, it's usually 5 to 8%.
5 to 8%. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 to 8%. Any number below 5 being a number that is a no-go.
It's probably too low to go. The reason is, any number below 5%, you need to ask yourself, can I borrow money cheaper than 5%? Can I find finance with less than 5% interest? If you can't, that means it's not profitable to borrow for the property, so you can't finance or refinance. So if you refinance on those kind of property, you pay 5.5% of interest. You're losing money on every dollar you borrow. You're losing. But if you find a property with let's say 6.5% of a cap rate, that means with every dollar you borrow, if it's lower than 6.5% interest, you're making money. So for every dollar you pay in interest, you're making probably 1 cent or 1 cent and a half for your own profit. That's my logic in comparing deals. So
when do you feel comfortable pulling the trigger? What is that cap rate that you pulled in 2018? Of all 20 deals, what would you say was the cap rate? I mean, the range obviously between 5 to 8. What was the most common cap rate?
The most common, I would say, probably 6 to 6.5% is around that range. And of course, the first two properties I bought, I didn't have a lot of interest. I didn't have a lot of experience. So those two they have a pretty low cap rate. The part of the reason is because one of the property it has a very bad swimming pool. It's just a very old and nasty swimming pool in the yard, and to keep it as a rental, I have to fill that out, and that costs a lot. Cost me about $8,000. So that dragged the cap rate down a lot. Yeah, but
which is something in the future that do you feel like if you would have climbed up the fence or somehow gone to the back of the property, or even satellite imagery would have shown you, like Google Earth would have shown you that there's a pool back there.
Yeah, exactly. For if you want to see if there's a pool, is the best way to see is not climbing over the fence. It's through the map. Yeah, through Google satellite map.
There you go.
Yeah.
Satellite map or a drone. Maybe if somebody has a
drone.
drone.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah.
You get real-time imagery.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time here today. I want to... We're probably going to have you on the show again because you're just a wealth of knowledge, and your knowledge that has happened recently. I think a lot of our 50-plus property owners have purchased property over time, and a lot of them have purchased maybe a few in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Whereas you've purchased the bulk of your portfolio in just the last couple of years. So
the last couple of years,
your
yes.
information is really current, which is great. Talk to me a little bit about area. Are you area agnostic? Do you not care where you're investing, or do you look at specific areas of Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I do care. I do care about the area, and Oklahoma City is I would say it's hard to say this whole area is good or that whole area is bad, because we have a lot of pockets in the area, and only the pockets is good, but the rest is bad. That's why I drive around for most of the properties. But generally speaking, the area you're focusing on, which is the Northwest, right? The Northwest, there are tons of good pockets in those, and I buy a lot in those areas, which is north of I-40 and west of I-235. Yeah, and of course the real high dollar area like the Village, the Nichols Hills, I try to stay away because those areas they cost too much. But even west of I-44 or Lake Hefner Parkway, there are a lot of good pockets in the neighborhood, and you just need to find them. And I generally try to stay away from the northeast side, east of I-235 and the north of I-40. So that area is kind of rough, still high crime area. The cash flow look good, but maybe only good on paper. So you probably will find bad tenants or they don't pay and there are issues, evictions and stuff. So I generally try to avoid that. And the LCD and the Midwest city is interesting. You need to really dig into there to find the good ones. I have 4 or 5 properties in those areas. I think it's interesting. It's probably booming because one of the shows talk about a recent Tinker project, I believe, and
the hangars.
The hangars, and which will create 1,000 jobs or so.
It's estimated 1,000 to 1,500 jobs.
1,000 to 1,500,
and those are contracted positions.
Nice, and those area will have opportunity to probably in the future, even in today. So that's good. And on the south side, maybe close to I-240 or a little further south, those areas are the good ones. So, yeah.
We talked in the last show about the Wheeler District. Okay, you remember just south on Western, just south of I-40.
Yeah.
That area.
South of the river, right?
Right, just south of the river. It's still high crime rate, as you've said before.
It is.
But I feel that with the infrastructure going on with the Wheeler District that we talked about, with potentially a charter school going in there, and just the close proximity to the Strawberry Fields project the $130 million Scissortail Park, which is going to extend to the south side, which is extremely important.
It's right next to each other, right?
Right,
Yeah, with the
correct. So if you know where Scissortail Park is, or you know where the new convention center is being built, you can see that on satellite imagery now. On satellite Google Earth right now, it's just a big brown mud pit.
Yeah.
But now it's got green grass and a lake, a 3-acre lake, and a 10,000-seat amphitheater. The important thing, though, is that park is north of I-40, and then south of I-40 is the southern half, which will open this coming year, okay? And it has a bridge. A pedestrian bridge that goes across it. If you can actually go out there now and walk across that bridge, but that bridge will become popular because it will be the first opportunity that we've ever had to have pedestrian traffic go from the south side into downtown. It will be walkable for the first time ever across I-40 for individuals that obey the law. I mean, people would have been walking across these other bridges and walking down traffic and all this, but this is specifically for pedestrians, and it's nice. It's got wood bridge. It's got, this big scissor-tail art looking thing. It's supposed to be the tail of a scissor, scissor-tail bird. Very tall. It's very good to look at. And then at night, it has different colors that shine. I've actually taken my wife on a date there. And actually, they have a bunch of locks on this bridge. They're little padlocks.
Yeah, I saw those locks.
Did you see people put their relationship name on there?
Yeah, they put their names on it, and there are tons of locks, padlocks.
And some of them are hanging off the edge over the traffic. Have you seen that?
It's got to be dangerous.
So he's really showing her his love, So, but anyways, make a long story short, that trend of now the downtown being open and accessible to the south side. You've got the Wheeler District. Eventually, that's going to be a good opportunity. So I think... we've got some properties on the south side. They perform okay, and they're Section 8 right now. I'm not buying any properties that I have to rely on Section 8 anymore for because I'm not sure what the future of Section 8 is. Trump gets reelected again. Who knows what's going to happen with Section 8? He's very against just the free Section 8 that we did have in the past. Wants to limit that type of funding. And although Section 8 vouchers are handed out locally and mostly funded locally, the federal funds behind those determine how many we hand out. So make a long story short, if you can get in at a cash rate that works, that you can keep that property afloat, and you can buy in a seed to that area, I would do it now. This is a time 73, 102 or something like that, I think is the zip code there, just south on I-40 and western, just southwest of there, that zip code. So,
speaking of the opportunity there, I have a question that probably other audience have the same questions too. If the government's trying to do a big project in certain area, how do you make the people move? Do you just pay them high dollar money to move, real high dollar? And what if some people just refuse to move?
Okay, so there's a eminent domain is when the government does that. Okay, in eminent domain, you don't have a choice. You are basically subject in your deed, and this is the part where landowners in America get a little bit squirmy, right? So we think in America that we own the land, it's ours forever. Right? Not true. We own the land and we have to pay taxes, right, to the United States of America. But America has something called eminent domain in that if the government, by direction of the people, it has to be for the good of the people. It can't just be a random act of control. But if the people determine that a stadium has to be put here, or a park has to be put here, or a hospital needs to be put here, and you have real estate property that you own in that area, but the people have voted for the hospital to be there, they can buy your property without you deciding.
They can make you move. They can make the choice for you.
Called eminent domain, but they must give you fair market value. Okay. That's the part where it goes to court and people argue over what fair market value is.
Argue, huh?
Right. Yeah. You can fight it, and this is what happened with I-35 in the 1930s and 40s, or the 50s, when after World War II we came in and we made I-35, I-40, all the interstates of America, right? Well, where did those go through? They went through American farms, right?
Yes.
So eminent domain had to come in and go, we're going to buy your farmland to put a road through here for the good of the nation. Because in the long run, we all agree an interstate was worth it, right?
Yeah, it's
we
worth
need
it,
good
definitely,
quality
yes.
roads, right?
Yeah.
Same thing in this. If we determine that we need a big highway running through Oklahoma City, everybody votes on it. You have no choice at that point. You get paid, and if you don't leave, the sheriff's coming for you to take you off your property. So,
Gotcha.
what your deed means in the United States of America is unless the United States government needs it, you own it.
It's yours.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I spent some time, I had a lease actually in the Dominican Republic, and some of you know this story, but before I got into real estate here, I had gotten out of the Air Force, and I was a bit depressed about my experience in the Air Force, and I sailed a sailboat 2,000 nautical miles solo, spent over 9 months at sea, bouncing between the islands of the Bahamas. I went from North Carolina to Florida, from Florida through the Bahamas, and then I went through the Bahamas and then over to Turks and Caicos, and from Turks and Caicos down to the Dominican. I found a bar called Brisa del Mar. Okay, this bar was about 680 square foot at the bottom level, but it had its outdoor patio seating, and it overlooked this lagoon where sailboats stopped on their way to Puerto Rico and the rest of the Caribbean islands, right?
Yeah.
So people would come from Turks and Caicos, they would stop here, and they would spend several weeks waiting on the weather to get better or whatever, and they would sit and drink and have a good time, and they would tell other sailors about your bar, and so it seemed to be a good investment for me. The Dominican Republic is very difficult to buy property and own it outright. Okay. You have to be, in a lot of cases, a local resident or have a local resident on your business panel. So so we decided we were going to lease. We'll lease it for a while, see if it works. So we leased a property. I had this bar, and on top of it had an efficiency where you had a bed, you could stay and live. And I went back to the United States to continue working on my college. I was going to Florida Keys Community College there in Florida.
So you have somebody else managing that project
exactly.
for you, okay?
So I left an American there that was from Connecticut that I met while sailing.
Yeah.
He would wake up in the morning, stumble down the stairs,
Yeah.
turn on the lights, and open the bar. That's all he had to do, right? And it was Christmas. It was like December 20th of that year. I got a call from this this general manager of Brisa del Mar, our bar in the Dominican Republic, and he said, "I need to borrow $50." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm in jail, and I need to borrow $50 to bail myself out." We were at the beach, and one of the local law enforcement officers came by, and we were doing drugs, and we got put in jail. And my first reaction was, why are you calling me for $50?
Yeah. And
And
you're still
then-
here in the United States.
Yep. And then I heard the entire story that he had blown all of our funds. He had gotten involved in a cocaine habit and had done several different gambling situations over this cocaine habit.
Wow.
And had basically used our entire funds for the bar operation and left us with nothing down there. And so we ended up having to close the bar. And we're actually still in touch to this day. He's says he's drug free now, but that was a lesson in business operation. That it still sticks with me to today. But I learned a very valuable lesson, and it didn't hurt too badly because we had the lease, and luckily there weren't any drugs in the property, so we didn't get raided or anything like that. We just ran out of funds. A typical bar that runs out of money. So anyways, make a long story short, that's why I was intrigued when I became a realtor to understand the law behind our properties in the United States. And if you look at this eminent domain and you look at what it is, you're simply leasing the property from the federal government.
From the Fed, yeah. They say it's yours, but it's not.
It's not.
They have the final say.
That's correct. That's correct. And as of now, it's been great. It's the greatest country. I mean, nowhere else in the world. They don't even have 30-year. Do you know a country that has a 30-year mortgage?
No. no.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's no situation like this. I mean, the fact that
it's
they
amazing.
give a 30-year mortgage to somebody that is an investor is that's cuckoo brains.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's the federal government is helping you as an investor grow when that program was designed for primary homeowners. So
Right.
it's very interesting, but we're about out of time here. What would you say to those that don't know Oklahoma City? Do you plan on continuing to invest in Oklahoma City now that it's gotten popular, now that the word is out that Oklahoma City is the place to be?
Definitely. Well, as a long-time listener of your show, you reignited my love for Oklahoma City here in local. And I know it's a linear market, as you have been saying for like 10 times. It's a linear. It's the annual appreciation is around 3%, 3.4. I think that's your number. But last year, I think it's got heated up. I think 2018, we went up for 8% maybe, or close to that number. It's heating up. This is a place to be. I think Oklahoma now is pretty much like Dallas in 2013, 2014. I don't like to do forecasts on the market value, but I think we are comparable to Dallas in 5 years ago. I think that's the case. And also, our economy dependent on oil and gas is shrinking, is becoming lower and lower. We are not so oil dependent. And we create a lot of jobs on health, aviation, and a lot of other areas. So it's definitely a not multi-purpose. What's the word for that? We are not a sole economy that only oil dependent. We are open to all the good things, and we are booming. So this is a chance. I'm long for Oklahoma City. I will continue to invest in here, and I will root here. I will listen to your show, of course, always.
Thanks for coming on the show today, Howard.
Thank you so much, Landon. Appreciate it.
For more information and to listen or watch online, visit OKCRealEstateShow.com.